Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance is provided by TLC, Oklahoma's leading garden center, Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, Tulsa's source for great gardens, southwoodgardencenter.com. and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. It is that time of year to begin selecting plants to add to your garden. On today's show, host Casey Hinches has some great plants for your landscape, including a pair of Showy natives, some new and exciting perennials. We look at two beautiful Amnsonia, and there are plants for any soggy spots you might have.
A lot of times as gardeners we feel limited when we're looking for a evergreen ground cover, but we have one we want to share with you today. This is Pachyra obrovata. It is actually not only evergreen, but it also is a native, and it has lovely bright yellow flowers that really highlight a shady area. It is in the Asteraceae family, so it puts these clusters of daisy-like flowers up. You want to make sure that you plant it in an area where it gets part shade. It can handle full sun as well, but it makes a nice ground cover. You want to make sure that it stays moist. It likes consistent moisture and a space that will allow it to naturalize. You can see it's tucked in really nicely around our rocks here. It can be a little aggressive. It has stolons that will allow it to spread, and also it gets these tufts of white seeds that will float in the wind. And so you want to make sure that if you don't want it to spread, you can come through and deadhead it pretty easily after it blooms. Pachyra obrovata is also known as Senecio obrovatus. A lot of times you'll see it listed as either or. The common name is groundsel, and it's a great plant to add for a shade ground cover. You might have seen this other native Pachyra growing along the roadsides. This one again looks similar to our shade-loving Pachyra, but this is actually Pachyra platensis. Also, it used to be recognized as Senecio platensis, and while it might look similar, there are some actual variations, and you can see that it has more cobweb-like hairs on this plant. The leaves are also more elliptical versus the oval-shaped leaves of the other one. And this one actually prefers very little water. It grows along roadsides in rocky, sandy conditions. They used to be classified as Senecio, and a lot of times you will still see them listed with the genus Senecio. Now you might be familiar with another Senecio, and that's Senecio cineraria, which is the Latin name for dusty miller. And there are some similarities to it. If you look at the lobed leaf of this, you can see that it has a similar leaf to dusty miller, as well as the hairs that are on here. Of course, dusty miller has a lot more, but the flowers are very similar too. Now, all three of these are cool season crops, which is why we use dusty miller a lot of times in the fall and early spring. But of course, dusty miller is not quite as tolerant here as these natives are. We are outside at TLC's nursery where they house their perennials, and joining us today is Melissa Burgett, and you are the perennial manager, and you've pulled quite a few perennials for us. Thank you for doing this, and can you tell us a little bit of what you have here for us?
Sure, Casey. I just want to start with some shady plants. One of my favorite ones is the Ito peony. A person could grow this in shade to part sun. Probably no afternoon sun here in Oklahoma City, but this plant will get about 3 feet by 3 feet, and it's just a lovely addition to your perennial garden.
Right, you can't beat that flower. I mean, it's a showstopper.
For sure. Next, I'd like to talk about some of our natives. An important native here is definitely going to be our columbine. As you can see, it's got the nodding, really tall, dramatic nodding heads on it, bicolor orange and yellow. Just really graceful, easy to grow perennial for shade.
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure this is in the shade, but it's beautiful when the flowers dance in the wind.
Yes, very dainty.
Got a phlox here?
Yes, this is a woodland phlox. This is actually for shade. This is Phlox stolonifera, home fires, hot pink to medium pink blooms, and definitely a low grower for you. So put it out in front of the border. Great for butterflies and a lot of our pollinators for perennials.
And you have another low grower here, the violet.
Yes, this is silver gem. And what I love about this plant, it's got the purple blooms on it, but even after the blooms subside, you still have this really silver leaf perennial with a darker underside. So that's another really good one for fritillary butterflies here in Oklahoma.
Great foliage to that also.
Yes.
All right.
So we're moving into full sun plants now. And another one of my favorites is this new threadleaf coreopsis. Coreopsis is another important perennial native here. This one is Highland Blast. It's going to get about 12 to 18 inches tall and wide. So really pretty texture, really vibrant colors, long blooming. You can also get the same look in a little bit deeper burgundy, one called Highland Burgundy actually. So,
of course, we have our catmint.
Yes, no garden is complete without your Walker's Low catmint. This plant will bloom literally from spring till fall. A large plant, about I would say 2 feet tall, 3 feet wide at my place.
And it's got the name Walker's Low, which is a little,
Yes, a little bit misleading, but if you don't have that kind of room in your garden, there is a new one, and this is Junior Walker.
So it is a low grower.
It is. This is going to stay 18 inches or under and probably do 2 feet wide.
Okay.
So, another great one for the bees and butterflies.
And so I just love this one.
Yes.
I'm so glad you included this one.
This one is super velvety. This is our new Bella Grigio lamb's ear. An upright lamb's ear. What a showstopper. This light colored foliage looks great with hot pink, red, purples. Yeah. Super pretty.
Next to the hot pink, it really makes a nice contrast there.
Treat it like any other lamb's ear, but what fantastic color on that plant.
Excellent.
This is actually an intergenetic hybrid between lamium and lamb's ear, but very heat tolerant, prolific purple blooms on this plant.
Excellent. Sun?
Full sun.
Yeah. Okay. And then you've got some mullins here that come in a variety of colors.
Yes, so this is verbascum, and we started growing these here at TLC last fall. We have 3 different varieties for you to choose from. This one's called Plum Smoky. Really nice, unusual mauve bloom to it. Orange stamens on all of these, which is kind of nice. Jackie and spots here. And then my favorite is Clementine. Clementine is multicolors, peach, yellow, fuchsia, and orange all in one plant. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, and it really gets picked up by this buddleia behind it.
Yes, that's Miss Molly. It's an old-fashioned favorite, but you know, the magenta color on that butterfly bush, just, you can't beat the combination.
It jumps out in the landscape, definitely. And we've got some eupatoriums here.
Yes.
Which eupatoriums are a great plant, but these are variegated.
They are.
Bring a little bit of variety into your garden?
Okay, so this one is Capri. It's going to be a shorter eupatorium than what you're used to. This one's going to be about 16 inches at maturity, whereas this one's going to be more like 2 feet. And this one is Pink Frost. Same great pink blooms as the other eupatoriums you're known for. These can handle a little bit more part shade.
Okay.
This is the Japanese sedge. That's really great for an area that may stay more moist, and you may have a challenge growing certain things in that area, but this plant will handle that kind of condition and just add brightness and some interesting grass-like texture.
Well, great. This has been excellent, Melissa, and we'll add a lot of variety to our landscape. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Casey.
There are about 20 species of the genus Amnsonia, and I want to introduce you to a couple of them. This is Amnsonia hubrechtii. It gets about 3 feet tall and about 3 feet wide, maybe a little taller. And this one is well known for its foliage. It's got a very fine foliage to it. Its common name is needleleaf Amnsonia or blue star. The other common name, blue star, comes from these light blue star-shaped flowers that it has. It's a great drought-tolerant plant, very upright perennial. It will tend to flop a little bit later in the season, so after it blooms, we're going to cut it back about 6 inches. Now, in the fall, it'll have this beautiful golden tone to the foliage, and it's a great plant to add to your garden. Here we have another Amnsonia. This is a cultivar called Blue Ice. While the parentage isn't exactly known, it's very similar and was actually discovered next to Amnsonia tabernaemontana. It has a very similar look. You can see that the foliage isn't quite as fine as the other Amnsonia. It's got a little bit more of a lanceolate leaf to it. It does have the same star blue shaped flower. This one is actually a little bit darker though, so that's the nice thing about this cultivar, Blue Ice. It also stays shorter, only growing about 1 foot to 1.5 feet tall, which makes it really nice for a border plant. Again, both of these Amnsonias are very drought tolerant. They do well in rock gardens, and this one, because it's compact, it won't flop on you as much as the other Amnsonia. These are both great plants, and I'd highly recommend them for your garden. We are here at Southwood Nursery, and joining me today is the gardener guy, Paul James. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Casey.
I'm so excited to be here with you, and you're going to show us some plants that are tolerant of soggy soils, which is perfect because the sun is starting to come out finally. But what do we have to look at?
Well, there's a number of situations where people have a spot in their yard where, you know, maybe it stays wet all the time, or maybe it just stays wet for a week or two following heavy rains.
Right.
A lot of plants won't grow with wet feet like that. So I want to focus on plants that will do really well in those soggy sites. But the bonus is they also do really well when it dries out.
Perfect for Oklahoma.
So, as the name would suggest, river birch
likes water.
Exactly. Then this, I'm so excited about this, a relatively new introduction called Fox Valley.
Right.
Betula nigra Fox Valley. The cool thing about this, 8 by 8 is its ultimate size.
Excellent. So it'd be great for a small backyard. I mean, you can see it doesn't look as much like a tree, it's more of a shrub.
Exactly. But it still develops that beautiful exfoliating bark that is a key feature in the full-size tree.
Right.
So rather than have this giant tree in your yard, if you like river birch, you can still have one and just go with the shrub form.
Perfect.
I love this.
That looks great. What else do you have?
Okay, one of my absolute favorites, and yours too apparently.
Yes.
Taxodium disticum, the bald cypress.
The bald cypress.
Now, these are native to swamps. Mm-hmm. Louisiana swamps, if you've ever seen them growing, and they develop those knees,
right.
which are terrible on lawnmower blades. But these, they'll not only thrive in water, standing water, but if it dries out, they also adapt readily to dry conditions.
Right, and this was actually an Oklahoma proven plant.
Yep.
Which is nice. Some of the plants you're showing us are easy to find in nurseries.
Yes. But in this group, this is a fairly new introduction. This is called Peeve Minaret. Mm-hmm. I love this. I have 3 of these.
It's going to be a dwarf also, right?
It's a dwarf cultivar. There's still actually some disagreement on its ultimate height. I'm putting it at about 8 feet.
Okay.
But only about 2 feet wide.
Excellent.
So you get that, again, great for a small property, a little courtyard, even does well in containers.
So these are tree genus, but they're both dwarf.
Right. And you know, they do so well here. I mean, they've been on the planet since like the Triassic, Jurassic, so,
Right.
you know, it's a pretty rugged
There's
plant.
a reason it outlasted the dinosaurs, right?
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
well, let's go take a look at some more that you have for us.
Let's go that way.
So, Paul, speaking of natives, we have the Yaupon holly here.
Yes, and I don't think a lot of people realize that this will tolerate a really wet spot.
Right.
And you know, you've got the more familiar form,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got weepers, and you know, you got those beautiful berries. So another great choice. I love them.
And there's also a Nana Yaupon.
Right.
So
right.
does it do well in soggy
Not
conditions?
as well.
Okay.
Not as well. But you know, one of the things I've always liked about this more than anything else is its Latin name.
Ilex vomitoria.
I just love that. Who says botanists don't have a sense of humor?
Right. And you can blend this up too, as
Absolutely,
well.
absolutely.
So you can kind of create more shape with it.
I actually have a neighbor who for years had done that radical formal pruning, you know?
Right.
And one day he saw mine and he goes, "How do I get mine to look like yours?" And I said, "Stop pruning." And so he did, and it's been like 2 years now. It looks beautiful.
great.
It's gone back to its, you know, its natural form, and it's really pretty.
Right, they're a great plant.
I love them.
Excellent.
Okay, there's more. So, Casey, not a real well-known plant, I don't think.
Right.
Wax myrtle.
Right.
This is just an amazing plant from the standpoint of it will grow anywhere.
Okay.
It will grow fast, up to 5 feet a year if it really likes where it is. It's an evergreen. It's got aromatic foliage and berries. The berries in colonial times were used to make bayberry candles. Bayberry's another name for it.
Right.
I mean,
And it's an Oklahoma proven.
and it's in Oklahoma proven. Maybe some hardiness issues in certain parts of the state, but it's performing really well in the Tulsa area. So
Right, okay.
just, I don't know. It's, I'll be the first to admit, it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but when it comes to solving problems, because people want fast-growing evergreens,
Right.
and there really aren't that many. This is certainly one that'll fit the bill, and will just grow in wet soil, dry soil, heavy clay. It doesn't matter.
Southern wax myrtle.
Yes.
Sounds like an ideal plant for that situation
Yes.
that you're just not sure about.
Okay, so this is one where I'm going to throw you a curve maybe.
All right.
It's called black gum, okay?
Okay.
But the problem with naming any tree gum,
People want to chew it, right?
worse, they think of sweet gum and they don't want a sweet gum anymore because those seed pods are so, ugh.
Okay.
The black gum, its real name, and we're going to change the name on all our signs, Tupelo.
Tupelo.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a much prettier name, and the bees love the flowers.
Like Tupelo honey.
You got it.
Excellent.
But this is, what an amazing tree. Very underused in this area, very underused. It'll grow in wet soils, it'll grow in dry soils. This is wildfire. This will get about 30 feet or so.
Okay.
And then the species more like 40 to 50. But a great landscape tree, fall foliage is unbelievable.
Red color?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost like you plugged it in.
Really?
I mean, it just is spectacular. This is one of those, the fall colors such that people will stop, knock on your door and say, "What is that tree out there?"
That's fabulous. We're always looking for additional fall color.
Yeah, I mean, very underused, rugged as all get out. This thing is tough as nails. So great for any setting. And the smaller one will adapt well to smaller yards. If you've got plenty of land, then you can go with the big one.
Okay, great. So Paul, it looks like we've got a willow here. And
Yes.
It's amazing some of the different willows, and you have one in particular here.
I love this one because, you know, willows typically get pretty large.
Right.
And you see them growing around farm ponds, and they look great in landscape settings. But this is golden sunshine. Two things I like about it. The more golden color,
Yeah.
but the size. 15 by 7 or so, a shrub.
Okay, so it's going to have kind of a globe shape to it, not the weeping willow that a lot of times we're used to seeing, but this bright yellow foliage to it.
Right.
Very
and
nice.
Just well contained, you know, not difficult to grow. Loves the moisture.
Right.
All you want to give it. So a great choice. You know, a lot of plants. We need more smaller versions of familiar large plants.
Right.
Because so many properties are smaller these days.
Having smaller backyards. And this is a multi-stem.
Yes.
So could you train it into a single stem?
You probably could. I've never seen it in a tree form, but it'd be worth a try.
All right.
Yeah, why not?
All right, golden sunshine willow.
Okay, speaking of shrubs.
Yes.
My favorite shrub in the whole world is coming up.
Oh, goodness. Paul, it looks like we have sweet spire here.
I just love Little Henry.
It's a great one.
Itea virginica, Henry's garnet sweet spire. I'm telling you, to me, this is as good a four-season shrub as you can get.
Right.
That new foliage comes out, it's just that beautiful light green. Then it darkens. You get the panicles of white flowers. These are almost past their prime, but then again, so am I. So, you know, what are you going to do? And then you get amazing fall color and the red stems.
Right. That's what I like, is the contrast between the red stems and the foliage. It's just a perfect plant.
Well behaved in a drier spot. It will send out runners in a wet area.
So you get bonus plants that
Well, you
way.
do, absolutely. And it's not that hard to just cut them back if you want to. About 3 by 3. But the cool thing is, these will grow in deep shade as well as full sun.
And they'll light up that shade too. Kind of bring you a little bit of highlight underneath that dark shade of a tree.
I think oakleaf hydrangea is my favorite plant for Oklahoma. This may be running a close second. Yeah.
Okay. Paul, a lot of times people think about ornamental grasses being dry and in a hot condition. You've got one here that does well with soggy feet?
Yes, and I don't think a lot of people realize this. This is a switchgrass.
Right.
Panicum is the genus, and this will tolerate pretty wet soil.
Okay.
I mean, long term.
Excellent.
And another thing I just love about this, you know how the miscanthus and the pennisetas, more familiar ornamental grasses, tend to do this, right?
North wind holds its form, right?
5 feet, and I've never seen it wider than 2 feet.
That's great.
So
it won't cover up your other plants when you plant it next to something.
And it looks great as a specimen, looks great in mass.
Right.
I mean, it looks great no matter how you plant it.
And like all ornamental grasses, great winter interest. You leave the foliage on there, easy to care for. You just cut them back in late winter, early spring, and it does its thing.
Why am I here? You know all this.
You can't beat that.
Why, you don't even need me today.
No, this is great. Thank you for sharing.
But this does get a beautiful yellow in the fall. So yeah, four-season interest again, kind of like Little Henry over there.
Right.
You know, you can enjoy these and they don't need fertilizer. You know, water them well the first year to get them established. Beyond that, they thrive on neglect.
Yes.
That's what I love about it.
That's perfect for us low-maintenance gardeners,
Absolutely.
Right?
This defines low maintenance.
Excellent. So it looks like a grass, but it's actually a sedge, right?
That's right. The genus Carex. These, I think, also very underused and kind of give you that ground cover, grassy kind of look.
Right. It doesn't get much taller than this.
Right. But you've got this beautiful variegation. You know, here you got the yellowy cream color, and you've got the white on the edges.
Right.
So a lot of interest. And look, yours has got some volunteers, it looks like. Oh well, we'll deal with that later. But yeah, I love these, and they're great in mass. Great border plant,
I think they look really great as mass. And again, you mentioned the color, the variegation. It helps highlight some of those shady spots too.
Bingo.
Perfect.
Now, right next to us here, we have the ferns.
Yes.
So ferns, all the ferns will do okay in a moist environment. But the ostrich and the cinnamon will tolerate really wet areas. I'm out of ostrich ferns today, but some cinnamon ferns we've got. And those, I mean, seriously, wet is fine.
So these are the ones you'd put next to your leaky faucet,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
When you have a leaky faucet and you haven't got around to fixing it, if it is in shady conditions,
Right.
It's great for that area where it's going to stay constantly moist.
Yeah, I just love them. I love that woodland look and feel. the softness and gentleness. I don't know. I've just always been attracted to ferns.
Perhaps planted under your bald cypress.
Exactly. 'Cause
Very good.
another gymnosperm. It's been around for a long, long time.
Bring in the dinosaurs. Well, it looks like you've shown us everything, every situation. Sun, shade, large, small backyard. There is something for the soggy location.
There really is. And it's too bad that a lot of people think they can't solve the problem.
Right.
When in fact, there are a lot of solutions to those problems.
Thank you for sharing those solutions with us.
My pleasure.
It's January, a time most people consider to be the dead of winter, but spring will be here before you know it. And we'll be back with all new episodes of Oklahoma Gardening starting February 11th. In the meantime, you'll continue to see best of shows from last season. Don't forget, mark your calendar. February 11th, we'll begin a whole new season of Oklahoma Gardening.
There are lots of great horticultural events this time of year. Be sure and consider these activities when you're making your plans for the weeks ahead. Next week on Oklahoma Gardening, we have tips for early season planting. We start seeds and damp off the seedlings, sow cool season vegetables, surface plant daffodils, and help you get those really healthy tomatoes. So join us then for more TV you'll grow to love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.